There are many great questions to ask Seventh-day Adventists about abortion, but I'm going to share with you the number one best question. On October 12, 1992, the Adventist Church accepted the current pro-abortion position, which you can see right here published on the official church website. At the time, Dr. Earl Aagard was a professor of biology who immediately wrote a letter to the editor of the Pacific Union Recorder, which was published here February 1, 1993. I'll put a link in the description box down below so that you can read his entire comment, but he says this: "Those wishing to assign the fetus to a different category of human life with fewer rights than those of us who are already born should say so plainly and then wrestle openly with the following question. What moral, what biblical principle distinguishes a baby born 2 months premature from a 7-month fetus, making it a crime to kill the first, but merely an exercise of personal freedom to destroy the second? If we do not give a reasoned and defensible answer to this question, we will be sanctioning infanticide." We Adventists like to believe that everything we say and teach is based on the Bible, and as we state here in our fundamental beliefs, we hold the scriptures to be authoritative. Many people who are aware of the abortion issue and who have discussed abortion with Adventists will very likely have had the frustrating experience of asking Adventists for the biblical evidence to defend or support the church's pro-abortion position, but have been met with either outright spiritual woo-woo or vague, ambiguous references to choice and freedom of conscience. Among church leaders, evangelists, and theologians, the answer will almost always be some reference to freedom to choose. There are a few who may try to discuss abortion, but ultimately, almost 100% of the time, the Adventist will eventually retreat to their safe place by claiming freedom of choice. This is a great question. The beauty of this question is that it cuts off the Adventist from retreating. It takes away their favorite escape route, and it reveals that the entire foundation is completely phony and false. For over 30 years, since the 1980s, Adventists have been conditioned to think of abortion and freedom of conscience as inseparable. So when Adventists cite freedom of choice, they really believe in their mind. They are confident that they have achieved the high moral ground. The problem is that it is all based on an assumption. They just assume that this idea of abortion and choice is based upon the Bible, and they believe this simply because leaders in the church, especially in North America, have repeated this mantra, choice, 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 endlessly for over 30 years, but they have never provided any biblical evidence for this. The Seventh-day Adventist Church teaches that killing a child is a matter of conscience, but raping a child is not. But they cannot tell you why. Aggravated assault, a crime. Animal cruelty, a crime. Vehicular homicide, larceny, arson, burglary, tax evasion, all of these are crimes. Raping children, a crime, but killing children, according to Adventists, that's conscience. But the problem is that nobody in church leadership can tell you why. They cannot give you any evidence or reason why killing a little girl is conscience, but raping that little girl is not. The beauty of this question is that it is so straightforward, so objective, so fair and reasonable. It is not political. It is not attacking anyone. It's not divisive. It doesn't have any offensive or complicated words. The question is very effective because Adventists, especially church leaders in North America, speak of abortion as if it is some sort of airy-fairy abstract theological idea, as if it is some sort of vague, nebulous concept that is to be continually discussed or pondered, but that is false because abortion is a medical, surgical procedure. It is 100% a very real physical action. We Adventists can talk about and discuss abortion all we want, but at the end of the day, this surgical procedure will take place or it will not. There is no neutrality. The child will live or the child will die. This is a great question because it fully exposes that you must eventually leave the world of abstract theology and apply it in the physical world. And in order to apply it, you must have some sort of objective standard that defines when killing a child is a matter of conscience and when it is a crime. It's like if someone said to you, "That wall over there is 7 feet tall." And you ask them, "Well, how do you know? Do you have a tape measure?" "No." Well, then how do you know it's 7 feet? Well, that bag weighs 10 pounds. How do you know? Do you have a scale? No. Well, if you don't have a scale, then how do you know it's 10 pounds? It's 49 degrees outside. How do you know? Do you have a thermometer? No, but killing children inside the mother's arms, mother's car, or in a mother's house, that is so wrong and evil. But killing children inside the mother's womb, oh, that's choice. How do you know? Do you have scripture? Do you have a biblical principle? No, I'm not aware of any. The entire Adventist teaching and position about abortion is based upon the foundation that abortion is a matter of choice or freedom of conscience. But the church cannot provide you or anyone with the objective standard with which to apply this teaching. It's like if someone said, here is a compass, but they took the needle off the compass and they said, hey, use this compass to find your direction. But you cannot apply it because there is no needle. The Adventist teaching is just a bunch of airy-fairy spiritual woo-woo. It cannot be applied. Without the biblical evidence that this question calls for, the position and teaching is not applicable in real life. It cannot guide, it cannot help, it cannot do anything except cause confusion, making it worse than worthless. It's just woo. 100% woo. When we Adventists say that the Bible is authoritative, the standard, the ultimate test, and the definitive revealer of doctrines, we mean that the Bible is the objective truth, not subjective feelings. Our belief in the Sabbath is objective. Our belief in the state of the dead, based on objective evidence. Sanctuary, second coming, objective. But on abortion, what we teach is entirely subjective. We are teaching as doctrines the commandments of men, and others have pointed this out long ago. Adventist professor of religion, Dr. Richard Fredericks, noted on page 127, the crucial point is that we have moved from an objective to a subjective basis for decision making. Dr. Aagard's question right here is dynamite because it blows up all of the nonsense and rhetoric. This question is so helpful because you can bypass all of the arguments and strike at the very foundation. You take everything away. The Adventist thinks that they are safe by citing choice, but by asking this, you've taken away everything from them with just one simple question. One of the reasons why many church members don't want to talk about abortion is because in their minds, they hear this freedom of choice rhetoric from both culture and church leaders and perceive it as this massive, gargantuan, seven-headed beast. All of the arguments seem so intimidating, and just the thought of challenging this can seem scary or overwhelming. But the truth is that it's all a big fat fraud. Just like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, pull back the curtain only to find it's just a giant smokescreen fantasy.
Oh, the great Oz has spoken. Oh.
When I first learned about abortion in our church, even though I had studied the Bible and I knew it was wrong, when I first started talking to church leaders, I was kind of hesitant and unsure. I really thought that they were going to give me some powerful and persuasive arguments and evidence. I thought, surely they have something to say. However, to my surprise, I found out that when I asked this and other questions, their response was to do what? To do everything possible not to answer the question. They don't even attempt to answer it. Adventist church leaders are so quick to quote the Bible on the Sabbath, so quick to quote the Bible on returning the tithe, so quick on every other topic, but when asked about this question about abortion, they give every possible excuse to evade the question.
Many people think of single cells as being less complex than multicellular organisms. Darwin thought so, and he thought that the first organism was a cell.
I personally contacted Dr. Aagard. I asked him, how do you pronounce your name? He said that he would tell his students that it's like the A in awful, but I would say it's A like awesome because this is such a great question. I asked him if he ever got an answer, and he said no. He said that he contacted many church leaders, but they gave him the cold shoulder and completely ignored him. And that is very, very important. As I've documented in my other videos again and again and again, this proves yet again that many people in our church have contacted church leaders and they did absolutely nothing. And this man is not some average layman. He's a scholar. He is a Ph.D. in biology, teaching at one of our own Adventist institutions. He asked church leaders in the most professional and polite manner, and he was completely ignored, and they ignored it because the entire position and history is a complete fraud. It's completely fake and phony all the way through. It's a total lie, and the entire world church has been scammed by these pro-abortion liars in North America. And please, I'm asking you, please do not take my word for it. Go find some church leaders in the Adventist church, especially in North America and the GC, and ask them this question. If you can, I highly recommend doing it in person. When you see their insecurity, when you see their fear, when you see the contortions that they go through in order to evade the question, it's a very sad and pathetic thing to watch. But you will see for yourself that it's all a complete fraud. And remember, this is not some theological question like the identity of the 144,000. No, this is about the physical safety of children. This is a question of whether or not we as a church should continue supporting the cruel, brutal, bloody violence towards children. These children have no advocates in our church. If you don't ask this question and demand a "Thus saith the Lord," then nobody else will, and nothing in our church will change until church members put their foot down and say, enough is enough. We want answers from the Bible. Sometimes you will meet church leaders who will act as though they don't understand the question, or they will simply ignore it, hoping that you will let it pass. If that happens, then you can use this very simple and effective variation. The Adventist church right here officially supports anti-smoking legislation in order to protect unborn children from the dangers of cigarette smoke, but at the very same time says that it's okay for that same mother to kill her child via abortion. Question: why? Why is it freedom of conscience to kill your child, but it's not freedom of choice to smoke a cigarette? That is an excellent question, and it's really helpful if you can print out this page right here from the GC Health Ministries and show it to them. Another question to ask them: if you were in a bank and witnessed a bank robbery, or if you saw a burglar break into your neighbor's house, would you call the police? Or if a pedophile came to a church and began to hurt one of the children, would you call the police? Adventists, especially in North America, just love to put on a great big show of righteous indignation concerning child rape and say, of course they would call the police and even personally interfere. This question is very important because it establishes that they do know the difference between crime and conscience, and that they do support force to compel others. When talking to Adventists about abortion, especially church leaders, if you can manage to have a conversation with these two questions, you have completely boxed them in and they have no way of escape. The Aagard and smoking question established that they have nothing whatsoever on which to claim abortion as a matter of choice. And question number 2 draws out the hypocrisy and establishes that they support using force to compel obedience. They support using legislation and physical force to protect children. These questions are dynamite. They're absolute dynamite. And I highly, highly, highly recommend writing them down or printing them out on a piece of paper or index card and keeping them in your Bible. If you ever at any time hear an Adventist talk about abortion, you just ask these questions and you cannot lose. It's a guaranteed win. Dr. Aagard's question is so good that even if church leaders see you coming a mile away, even if they know that you will ask them this question, even if they know ahead of time, they still can't do anything. There's no way to answer this. When talking about Adventists and abortion, asking this question is like rolling up in an Abrams tank. You are completely safe, completely protected. You are standing on the Bible. Your position is impregnable and unassailable, and all you need to do is fire one shot by asking this question, and it's game over. The smartest, most intelligent, most experienced, most accomplished Adventists in church leadership cannot recover from this question. They cannot come back. The Aagard question or the smoking question, very simple, very effective. Within the Adventist church, it is Loma Linda University, which has been the epicenter, arguably the largest source of pro-choice ideology. It was Loma Linda professors who were the main authors of the church's position on abortion, and just a few weeks ago, you can see me here speaking at Loma Linda University to a group of doctors and theologians about abortion. Listen to what I asked them. Develop these ideas. So this is a serious question. Another question that needs to be answered is, what is the biblical principle distinguishing a baby born 2 months premature from a 7-month fetus, making it a crime to kill the first, but merely an exercise of personal freedom to destroy the second? So here we have a 7-month fetus, and if it is born premature, you can't kill it, because that would be a crime. But if a woman is 7 months pregnant, she can terminate the pregnancy, and that is protected by freedom of choice. But where is the biblical principle to make that distinction? These are the very same people who claim choice and freedom of conscience, but when asked directly to provide the evidence, not even one person even attempted to answer it. By the way, this same question was asked of politician Nancy Pelosi here in June 2013.
So the question I have for you is, what is the moral difference between what Dr. Gosnell did to a baby born alive at 23 weeks and aborting her moments before birth? What's the difference?
You're probably enjoying that question a lot. I can see you savoring it. But let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this.
Of course, she can't respond, so what does she do? She attacks the person asking the question and does everything she can to get away from it. When you do ask Adventists this question, be sure to please come back to this video and put in the comment section down below what kind of nonsense they told you. I want to give a shout out and special thank you to Dr. Aagard for asking this question and for being a faithful witness and speaking up and challenging this problem in our church. My friends, you now have a very powerful tool that you can use to regain the vantage ground for the Lord. For the glory of God, please go ask this question and demand from our church leaders a "Thus saith the Lord."